Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of that thing we call Till Mets Do Us Part. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. It doesn't matter to me because I think the best place that you should watch this show is live on YouTube, where your questions, your comments, your concerns, your heckles, anything you want to tell us, your just adoration of myself and Ibby and the show, whatever you want to say. It all comes in real time, no matter what it is. And of course, we understand that not everybody can do that, but if you can watch some of the show and then you tune out and you want to catch the rest of it, well, on YouTube is the best way to make sure you do that by subscribing and turning notifications on along the way to make sure that you are watching. You know when we're going to drop a new episode. You know when we're going to go live and all of that amazing stuff. John Sapanaro out here in Los Angeles, California. My co-host, Matt Ibby Ibanez, he is back this week, holding it down in New Jersey. Ibby, how you doing?
John, I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. And I got to tell you, I was lost. I was lost for a week where I didn't get to record the show. And it's like I've always said multiple times, I love when that red light goes on and we get to talk Mets and just hang out and talk with the crew, everyone here in the chat. And it got taken away from me. But I was excited because, with the week off, I was able to work with some things for our YouTube channel, trying out some new things, posting some shorts, doing all that stuff, trying to grow the channel in general. So I was doing some behind the scenes work, which was all I could handle for the week. Well, that's okay. I'm back. It's our last show for season 3.
Last show ever.
No, do not do that. Look, guys, oftentimes John would come on here as a joke, be like, by the way, I'm quitting the show. Now he's actually leaving me for 3+ weeks because he's got to go be fancy in Australia. He's got to do his thing. But all jokes aside, last show of season 3. Very proud that we've got through 3 seasons so far. We're going to keep on doing this as long as we possibly can. But there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to get into. And with a 3-week break coming up, we got some stuff to cover. So let's get into it.
Yeah, look, certainly, and right now, as I thought might be the case, with the Mets season kind of winding down, our views are a little bit lower in terms of live viewers. I know we're just 2 minutes in, but we do have Jeff Cohen and James Dowling checking in, saying hello, gentlemen, and we've got the boys are back, and then Jeff Cohen saying, you were lost, we were lost. Hey, I thought I did a good job interviewing Will Salmon.
I'm just great numbers, fantastic numbers for the week.
Thank you. I'm going to put all of that on Will, not on me, but he's a guy people wanted to hear from. He was on every Mets podcast.
He was everywhere. So, yeah, he was popular guy.
And honestly, look, I love Will. He's a really good dude behind the scenes, super nice. And I didn't know. He never mentioned like, hey, I'm super busy this week, I can't come on. He's like, yeah, man, when do you want to do it? How do you want to do it? Mm-hmm. How much time do you need? Like, he was super accommodating as far as being on our show, being on all all of the shows that he was on that week. So it was really good to hear from him. Keith Blacknick checking in. Hey, guys, can't be in the chat, but QBC 2023 tickets go on sale. So go ahead and, you got to be there at the QBC. I'm going to be there. Ibby's going to be there for the first time.
I'm going to be there.
Ever.
Yes,
at the full-fledged one. Of course, you hosted the lunch with Howie Rose, but you're going to be at the full-fledged QBC for the first time ever. So,
very excited.
Look, honestly, all jokes aside, it was super fun to get that insight from Will. Talk about where the Mets offseason plans are and all that stuff. And I did put a Twitter video out a couple hours ago just saying, hey, like, look, this is on me that we're not here next week and the couple weeks after that. Because I thought that I needed a little bit of a break while overseas. Had the Mets been Ibby firing on all cylinders, I would have found ways to watch the games as I did last year when they were in the playoffs and I was on the other side of the world. I would have found ways to do the show with you. But, it's just, I think we could all use a little bit of a break from the New York Mets as we transition into the postseason because, even though this season has been dead in the water now for a long time, it's a little sad for me. Yeah. Like, it's sad to not be invited to the party. So, I'm not saying we got to go lick our wounds or whatever. We're going to be back. We're doing all the off-season stuff. We're going to have guests on and all that stuff. But, like, to me, I think it comes at a good time because, look, had I not been going to Australia next week, we would have probably done one more show. And then we probably would have taken a break till after the World Series anyway. So to me, as much as I love doing this and all jokes aside, hitting record and getting on here with you and all the viewers and all the listeners and stuff, I don't think it would have made too much of a difference because I didn't want to sit there through the postseason and talk about like teams that aren't us and how they're doing and like what's next for the Mets as it relates to that. So, I don't know if you feel that way, but like, I just, obviously I'm going to be gone and that's part of the factor, but like, I just needed a break from the Mets, I think.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. And like you said, the season has been lost since, if we're being honest, since June. But yeah, it's unfortunate. This time last year we were getting ready for the playoffs and things like that, and obviously it didn't go the way we wanted to. But to John's credit as well, when he was on the other side of the world last year after the Mets lost, he had still thought like, should we record? I could if you want me to. I'm like, dude, we just lost. I don't want to talk about this team right now. I'm broken. I don't want to you're enjoy. He's like, I'm thinking about going to a beach. I'm like, just dude, don't go to the beach. Like, don't sit in front of a computer to talk to me when you could be on the beach enjoying yourself, not wallowing and licking your wounds like we were last year. But yeah, this year didn't go the way we thought it would. We'll get into that, some of the things, the ups and downs or whatever of the 2023 season. But it comes at a proper time. You're busy doing your stuff with Monster Jam. I'm a little hectic when it comes to my schedule with school and coaching and games and trying to find time to make time for this. I had to run around a lot today to make this happen, but I wanted to make sure I got here. I'm here. We're making it work. And but yeah, I think it's a proper time to just recalibrate. We have some things on the horizon we're excited about to get into. We'll save that for when we come back after those couple weeks. And yeah, it's a good time. It's a time that obviously Mets fans thought would be a little bit different, but there's still a lot of good that we can take out of this season and moving forward.
I totally agree. And you know what? I want to start right here. Carson saying, making Marlins fans cry as a 2007-2008 revenge has been fun. I do want to start there because the Mets are on right now, which is, it's great. Look, Alonso hit a 2-run home run. Lindor hit a 2-run home run.
46.
Alonso's pushing 50, and Lindor is pushing on 30-30. Yeah. So, there's some stuff there that you could talk about. But I'm going to say this flat out. Somebody said, like, on Twitter, I kind of reposted it or whatever a couple of days ago about how, like, can the Mets ease up and let us in, please? Like, as from a Marlins fan perspective.
Yeah.
And let me be the representative here that says, absolutely fucking not. Okay? The Marlins can fuck all the way off. Okay? I mean, this is the kind of show that we're ending the season on for us where, I there's not a lot of Mets things to break down. I want Pete to hit 50 home runs. I want Lindor to go 30-30. I hope Senga wins the Rookie of the Year. I don't care outside of that.
Top
I don't
five
care about
side,
else.
All those things, yeah.
None of it matters. I don't want to help any team ever. Now, obviously, there are other times that you're sitting here and you might want to root for a good story, right? Like, but I don't care who wins. I don't care who loses. Like, I don't care if it's not my team. I used to. Yeah. I used to fervently hate the Yankees when I was younger because, I grew up in the same city and they're winning and we're not. I don't anymore. Now, that's not to say I root for them, but I just don't care. I'm indifferent to what they do unless we're playing them or unless what they're doing affects us. So do I have the same vitriol for the Marlins that I do for the Phillies and the Braves? I don't. But I have a lot of vitriol for them because they did stand in the way of us in 2007 and 2008, like Carson says. So, like, I don't care that they're this, like, fun little upstart team, the Miami Marlins. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't want to see them succeed. I don't want to help them. I just don't care. And even, like, the good stories, like the Baltimore Orioles is a good story. Yes. If I had to pick a team to win everything, it would be them. But I still don't care. To me, it's not going to make a difference because at the end of the day, the Mets aren't in the playoffs. So it doesn't matter. Do I want to see the Braves win a World Series? Absolutely not. But to me, in the long term, in the long grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter to me whether the Braves win, the Orioles win, Tampa wins, Houston wins another one. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I just don't care about any of these other teams. So when people are like, oh, yeah, please, come on, let us get in. We're just the punchy Marlins. Absolutely not. Fuck that. And then as far as what happened this weekend, people are like, this is a disgrace. I can't believe they didn't play yesterday. They weren't ready. You know what? Good. I hope, like, good. I don't care. I hope this doubleheader ruins their chances. I don't care. I don't care, dude. Like, I don't know.
No, there's nothing at this point. No, I don't care. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not going to just roll over. Even though I have said on this show, it's like, look, and I've been saying in our Facebook community a lot too. I'm like, if there's nothing for us to win right now, so I've basically been championing for like this race to the bottom, losing games, bettering our draft stock. But when it comes to the Marlins and everything, it's just like the pain that I felt for that fucking team back in 07, 08, like that time, it's like, God, I fucking hate you because you were doing what this Mets team is doing to you right now. Like you're trying to get in, you're trying to better your position or whatever, and now you got to deal with a pain in the ass. Well, you've been the pain in the ass when it came to big time wins that this Mets team has needed in the past, and now now you get a little taste of it, and it's like, yeah, like screw you, I don't care. But at the same time, like I got the game on right now. I'm watching it, like you said, looking at the things that this team can accomplish. Like it is what it is, but like it's the last week. I'm really starting to get in tune for the off season. It is what it is. But if there's one thing I will say, and it's a shout out to Jack Ramsey for putting this out a couple days ago. Like the craziest thing is Pete Alonso could hit 50 home runs. Francisco Lindor can go 30-30. Kodai Senga can finish second or third in the Rookie of the Year, depending on how the votes go. Could end up being a top 5 as well in the Cy Young. Brandon Nimmo goes for 20-plus home runs and plays in 150-plus games for the second time, which is only beaten by Mookie Wilson, who's done it 3 times so far as a center fielder for the Mets. And you look at this team and you look at the record and you're like, holy shit, what the hell happened? Like all those things happened. And we talked about throughout the season how a lot, and Will mentioned it last week with you, saying how, look, a lot of these guys played beyond the back of their baseball card last year. That's why everything clicked and they won 101 games. But everything that I just said to you should still point to an idea of, oh my God, this team really bottomed out when all those great things that I just said are going to happen. And I don't want to hear anything about, padding stats when games and they don't matter. Bullshit. That's not the point. The thing is, you put up the numbers and this team still did not come close to where we thought it would be. And we'll talk about as to why that was in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah, and look, with that said, that's a good point because for some of these guys, they didn't do a lot. Just to be fair, they didn't do a lot when it was needed the most, right? I think Pete came back from injury too quick, but he wasn't good. He wasn't good for that entire month, right? So you gotta call it what it is, both sides. Do I think he was still hurt? I do. But at the same time, do I think that he deserves criticism for, not being good during that spot? Well, yeah, because if you came back, we expected more from you, just to be fair and call it right down the middle. But I do think that in a way, it does put a big onus on what we were talking about with regards to earlier in this year. Was the problem the pitching or was the problem the offense? Now, at times, the offense has underwhelmed. I'm not taking anything away from that. But when Lindor goes 30-30, when Brandon Nimmo hits 25 home runs and plays in 150 games, when Pete is going to hit somewhere around 50 home runs and have well over 100 RBIs, when you start looking at all of that stuff, it is very clear that the Mets would have been able to stem the tide had they gotten the pitching in both the rotation and the bullpen that they thought they were going to get. If Verlander was Verlander and Max was not mostly bad, I think the Mets are at the very least in a wild card position. Now, obviously, you take the Edwin Diaz stuff and you look at the back end of the bullpen, sure. But I think this team, if they had their head above water, would have acquired a bullpen piece or two. And I think they would have been able to go on a run. Now, this is, look, long time ago. And this is, what do you call it? Ancient history, right? But I do think there's something to be said about the fact that when you look at what this team would have been capable of, I think it does. I think it's an indictment on what the pitching staff, top to bottom, rotation, bullpen, the guys at the top end, the guys at the back end, the middle relief, everybody. It's a testament to what they didn't do and what they couldn't accomplish. Of course, Carson saying exactly, John. The problem is Jeff McNeil. Roll the credits. Boom. Carson hates
it's in my opinion, it was definitely the pitching, because when you saw in spurts, specifically after the trade deadline and after they traded guys off, you saw how they kind of went in a little bit more of a tailspin because they sold guys off. But shortly after that, they started putting things together. And that's when Quintana was back and he was dealing, and you got Senga and Peterson was stepping up a little bit more. The pitching was starting to show, and they were winning ball games. And it's almost as if they seemed like a better team after the deadline when they sold people off. But the main difference was the pitching was stabilizing and they were doing better. Now, granted, the last handful of games, it hasn't been that great in general in terms of winning and losing. But the pitching, when it's had those spurts of stability, both in the rotation and in the bullpen, they were winning games. And we all know, like, that's what the name of the game is. It comes down to the pitching, and they did not have it for the majority of the season. I think it's safe to say that this team was dead by June, because by the time that month rolled around and before they even had to work through it, I would venture to say that the pen was already toast at that point, because it was used so much because we weren't getting what we needed from the starters. Too much was being asked for from McGill and Peterson. Other guys didn't step up either, and those pen arms got burnt out outside of David Robertson, and you see where the season went. So I think it's very prevalent that the pitching was the number one issue this year, more so than the offense, even though it had its ups and downs. But I think the pitching was the biggest problem. And that's really where, when David Stearns comes in here, when he finally gets introduced, that's where the majority of his work's going to be, because he has to figure out, how can I get the starting pitching better, and how can I fortify this bullpen so I don't burn everybody out?
Yeah, and James Dowling saying this, and it really is a one-sentence way to sum up everything that we're saying. Offense, too inconsistent, and the pitching was awful. And yeah, I think the offense was inconsistent, but I think the offense was consistent enough to win more games if they didn't get dreadful, absolutely dreadful starting pitching, especially because he follows it up by saying the starters really went 5 innings in the beginning. That's pretty bad.
It was going 3-4 innings. It was terrible.
Moments ago, Mark Vientos just hit a mammoth home run with a runner on. So that's 3 2-run home runs on the day for the Mets from their 3, 4, and 5 hitters.
Mark Vientos, baby.
Lindor and Mark Vientos. Yeah, Mark Vientos looks good.
Mark Vientos, man, he's consistent playing time. We talked about why that was an issue. Let the guy play. Let him get his at-bats. Let him get used to it. You've seen it the second half so far. Guys hitting the piss out of the ball. And Carson, I know you like this, he's pulling the ball too.
Yeah, look, again, this episode's going to be a little different. We're not going to do live play-by-play and stuff like that with the game going on. But because we don't have a tremendous agenda necessarily, because there's not a lot of X's and O's to break down, and the season is going to end, and the Mets aren't going to the playoffs, but at the same time, there are still games to play. Yeah. Something like this can bring up a topic of conversation. Ibby, look, you and I have both been fairly middle of the road when it comes to what the Mets needed to do with prospects this season. Mm-hmm. We all said, hey, the team needs to be younger. You've got guys that are mashing. Bring up the younger guys and see what they've got. But we both also understood that you don't then just give playing time to people, especially when they're not necessarily earning it. Now, I know it's a chicken and egg situation. Hard to earn playing time when you're not getting opportunities. But I wouldn't say that Mark Vientos at times this season wasn't necessarily getting opportunities. Now, was he handed the job the way he's been handed the job here in the second half when the games didn't matter and it was like, hey, just run with this kid? No, he wasn't given that, and maybe he should have been. But I do understand that when you're a team that's still fighting, and in the Mets case, fighting for their lives, when Vientos was in the game and he's sitting there and he's hitting, 122, you're not going to turn around and say, oh, you know what, we're going to give him a week's worth of run. You know what I mean? So, look, I'm happy for the kid. I think his power is legit. I think his power plays, and I understand that that's an important part of it. I love power, so I'm not going to turn that down. But, I do think it's more of a difficult juggling act than some fans lead it to believe. Everybody wanted Vogelback gone. So did I. Everybody wanted Mark Vientos to be the DH. So did I. But, the guy did hit 125 for like a long stretch. And I don't think that can be ignored. I think it's a difficult thing to juggle. I'm happy for the kid that he broke through it, but people need to, it's not automatic. This is not Madden. This is not MLB The Show where you plug in a guy and you're like, oh, he's got better stats, so his stuff is going to work out better.
No, I get what you're saying, and you can't always just assume things, but Another thing I want to bring up is one thing that I hate is when you see people, whether it's on X or Twitter or whatever, or other places, mentioning how, you can't just assume things, because I think Mark Vientos is playing himself into a potential role for next year, whatever that may be is still to be determined. But I hate when people automatically bring up, they're like, oh, he's doing this in garbage time. It doesn't matter. These games don't mean anything. It's like, I'm sorry. When a guy comes up and he's struggling, I don't think he's so much struggling because, oh my God, it's July and it's New York and oh my God, I have all this pressure on me. It's like, no, it's the game of baseball. Like, it takes time. There's an adjustment period, and he's still playing for his career. He's playing for his life right now. So don't tell me that it's not, these games don't matter, because they do matter for these players that are trying to establish something for the following year and years to come. Because look, this is a tryout essentially to show, hey, this is what I'm worth. You don't have to worry about going elsewhere to get this player or this type of player, because I can provide it. So I hate when people automatically say, oh, that's garbage time, it means nothing. No, he's starting to show something. Him, Mauricio, Beatty's coming on a little bit more. I know Carson's not going to want to hear that, but Beatty's coming on a little bit as well since he's been back. And, these games do matter, especially when you're trying to figure out what's going to be going on the next season. I've said multiple times on the show, I want to be able to see guys get work so you can establish, what do I have? Does this work? Does this not work? This didn't work. I gave this ample time in the second half. It didn't work. I have to go elsewhere and find something more. That's what I wanted to see. And now you're seeing what these players can provide. So now you're thinking, okay, we can leave this. We can go attack something else.
Games always matter to players, period. Now, you can make the case games matter to coaches too. Of course they do. But games matter different to people who, maybe have a longer leash, right? Like a coach who's here and who's going to be here and expects to be here, or a manager in the case of baseball. Like, the games matter different in that regard. Players, Ibby, are kind of always fighting for their lives. Now, I know baseball is not the NFL and it's a little different in that sense, but when you're talking about a young player, the game most certainly does matter. Vientos is trying to prove to himself and to the Mets that he belongs. Beatty is trying to prove that. Alvarez is trying to prove that, although I would say that he's done the best of proving that, already. But that's what these guys are trying to do. Other players who have been around for a longer time, they're trying to prove that, hey, what I did that 1 year is not a fluke, or hey, I'm trying to find my next job or whatever, right? They always talk about that in the NFL. The games always, 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 always matter. And to that point, Carson says the games don't matter argument is terrible, since everyone wanted him up here while playing games that didn't matter in AAA, because AAA is the most broken league in the entire sport. So when you look at that as it relates to Vientos, it's true. So I never gotten on board with it's another one of those disconnect moments between fans and players or teams or coaches or whatever. To fans, the games may not matter. And you know what? That's fine. If you don't want to watch the Mets today because you'd rather do something else with your day, I'm not going to tell you you're not a diehard fan. I'm not going to say that to you. That's fine. I don't care. Don't watch it. I don't know. I'm watching it because I'm here and we're doing the show and I want to have a TV on in the background. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd be watching it. Maybe yes, maybe no. I'm not sure. But when you look at from the perspective of the player, it always matters. It just matters differently. The game doesn't matter to you as a fan, but the game matters to the player. They are professionals. People have to understand that. There's a huge distinction that needs to be made.
I also think that just a lot of people just really, they choose to talk on things, but they really don't know the game. And I'm not saying you got to know the game ins and outs and like be 1000% diehard, know every single aspect of the game. But I just think that sometimes, the Monday morning quarterbacking or the sitting or the couch manager just gets a little bit too far. They don't get it and they don't understand. So, it's just that's just me being bothered and perturbed as usual when it comes to people on whatever the hell is we're calling this app now.
Dominican checking in saying I only watch Mauricio. I told you guys Mauricio is the real deal. I mean, I've liked Mauricio, but yes, you were with that. You did say he was real good.
He's proven his worth 1,000%. He's definitely shutting me up when it came to my questions in terms of what he can provide and what this front office thought he would provide, because let's be honest, it took forever to get him up here. I thought they basically had given up on the guy, or didn't want to, expose him because they wanted to deal him. But I'm glad they finally brought him up, and he's proven that he can provide something for sure, 1,000%.
Yeah, and it leads me to the next comment here. Jeff Cohen saying, between Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio, Acuna, Williams, et cetera, where are they playing? Good problem.
Drew Gilbert, baby, all of them, all these players.
Drew Gilbert, yeah. I mean, look, all of these guys are not going to be here next year. All of these guys are not going to be on the Mets. 100%. Now, you want to use that as a segue, maybe to talk about potential Juan Soto rumors. We can do that. But all of those players listed there will not be on the Mets. I'm not saying they're going to get traded, but all of them that you just listed will not be on the Mets 26-man roster to start the year. That is for sure. Now, Beatty, Vientos, Mauricio are all already here. You could make a case that one, maybe two of them just won't be, right? Maybe they don't make the team out of spring. Nothing is given. Acuna is close. Williams is making a fast track. Gilbert is sort of kind of close-ish, but not all these guys are going to be on the team. And I do think there's a chance. I don't know who it is, but I think there's a chance that some of those names in there, Parada, you can add into the mix. Some of those names are going to be traded for somebody of significance this offseason. And I don't mean to hedge and say something cryptic, but my feeling is that the Mets will go out and trade for a player of significance, either in the starting rotation or a guy like Juan Soto. Something like that is going to happen, I think, for the Mets.
I think when you look, obviously it's on the tip of a lot of Mets fans' tongues because of, the news that came out with the Padres, because of, we're trying to get the payroll down to the 200s. I know Chris Soto put out on X talking about how the Padres are basically, above they're beyond the debt limit so they have to basically cut payroll because of what's coming in versus what's coming out, really getting hurt by losing the TV station and things like that, the regional sports network. So
sad.
Yeah, all those things. Sad.
I just want people to remember, I said it at the top, this is my I don't give a shit about other teams episode.
Yes,
I don't care.
Of course.
I don't care.
But I'm glad it's brought up, because I did read the latest article on The Athletic when it came to David Stearns and things that he has done in terms of trades and player movement when he was in Milwaukee, and what that might mean for the Mets. So when you say you think he might do a trade of significance, I agree with that, because when I look at some of the deals that he made in Milwaukee, the easiest one to point to, there's a lot of smaller ones that really worked out and signings that really worked out for them in terms of the WAR they provided and things like that. But, you look right to the Christian Yelich trade. You look to that trade that he made with Miami to bring him in. And at the time he gave up, you look back on it now, you're like, oh my God, they got Christian Yelich for nothing. Lewis Brinson didn't pan out and the other guys didn't really pan out. But it's at the time he was giving up a top 25 prospect. At the time, he was giving up another guy who was red hot and moving into the top 100s of lists and things like that. So clearly, once he gets an idea of the system, he's going to make some deals. Now, how big those deals are going to be is going to be the question. But will he be willing to do that? I think he's going to lean on the scouts a lot. He's going to lean on people that are in the building already when it comes to the ones that are kept in terms of player development and what they've seen so far down low. But it's definitely going to be interesting. And it wouldn't shock me if, a call is placed on someone like Juan Soto if he is available, or anyone really that might be put available in San Diego, or, how things might shape based off of the free agent market.
I think there are two teams, if you want to talk about the Mets, and who they could look for to target in the trade market. I think San Diego is the obvious one. I think the other one that's less obvious is the Chicago White Sox. I think the Chicago White Sox have a lot of good position players that need to find new homes. It's not working with the way they have it set up. Now, it's not failing on an astronomical level the way it has in San Diego, because they haven't put the money into it the way San Diego has, but it's just odd, not working. It's
I don't
odd
get it.
It's odd in both scenarios, because both of those teams should be better. San Diego should be a legitimate World Series contender the last 2 years, and the White Sox should at least be an over 500
competent
team.
Yeah, like, I don't get
at least
it.
Be competent, not one of the worst teams in baseball week in and week out. So I think those are two teams to look to. And I was having this conversation earlier on Twitter, and we can head into the break after this. But I'm okay with the Mets. There's been a lot of debate going back to the trade deadline and the stuff that was said to Scherzer and all this stuff. And I'm okay with the Mets taking a step back in terms of big spending and, putting all their money into one or two guys in the offseason. I'm okay with them spreading money around. I'm okay with them operating a little differently. But I don't think, Ibby, that is necessarily what we're looking at as Met fans. I think that you're not going to see the stopgap big spend. But I think when a player like Shohei Ohtani becomes available, I think when a player like Juan Soto, who might be available via trade, you're talking about two great players in the primes of their careers. So that to me is a different situation than going out and getting guys that puts a Band-Aid on the fact that your rotation is a little bit behind the eight ball in terms of prospects. That's what the Mets did with Max and Verlander. They were trying to win. Boom. How can we try to keep this thing together and win a World Series this year? Go out and get these two guys. Juan Soto is a solution for a decade. Juan Soto's still only, 25 years old or something like that? It's insane. And the Mets, unfortunately, didn't have Steve Cohen when Manny Machado was a free agent at 25 and when Bryce Harper was a free agent at 25. Well, you can fix that right now. And I don't know if they're going to turn around and they're going to trade for him. I don't know if Ohtani wants to come here. I don't even know if Ohtani is the best business move in terms of on-the-field baseball decision for the fact that you don't know how long he can do both of the things at the level that he's doing them at. Look, it's a complicated situation. I'm just saying the Mets are not going to be out automatically on anybody who is a superstar player that becomes available if they are in the prime of their career. That's all I'm saying. I just think when you look at the landscape of what free agency is now and what the Mets can do in terms of keeping their team, I don't mean relevant in the back pages, I mean relevant on the baseball field for the next decade. Ohtani and Soto, one of those two guys, they make a lot of sense for that. Yeah. So, I just think when you're thinking, okay, the Mets are going to be conservative, they are not going to be, Steve Cohen is not going to be outbid by another team if David Stern says the solution here is Juan Soto. And he gets him to buy in on that. Like, he's not going to be, if they agree as an organization that that's the direction to go in, they're going to get the guy they want.
And I'm just going to pull this up real quick from Carlos Ortiz. By the way, welcome, Carlos. I saw you came in before, saying, I don't think Soto is a good fit for the Mets. Look, everyone has their thoughts on Juan Soto because they think he should be more. Like, I feel like people think that he should be more than what he is, and they saw that he struggled a bit in San Diego, and then the thought process is, well, what's he going to do in New York? It's a much brighter light. Odds are it's a big contract. What's going to happen once he gets paid that big money? Is it going to change the player that he is? And then, of course, the question comes, how much money are you going to pay a guy where you're not sure within the next 3 to 5 years if he's still going to be in the outfield because he's not that great of an outfielder, even though he was given a gold glove when he shouldn't have been given a gold glove. But we all know that that's a popularity contest as well. But I understand the questioning there, but this was brought up today. I'm going to bring up the tweet, and it was posted. And look, I respect anyone who's on X and Twitter. Good Fundies Brian brought this up and saying, all I will say about the Juan Soto discourse is that he is absolutely excellent, a wonderful player at the near top of the league, but you cannot project players who are stars in the MLB at 23 to necessarily continue to improve. This might be who he is. Now, when I hear that, I understand it, but at the same time, I'm like, even if you said to me, this is the player that Juan Soto is, Daniel Wexler then chimes in with my thought process here. A 157 weighted runs created plus in 2023. Okay. That's Stan Musial's career weighted runs created plus. He doesn't need to improve at all. The concern with him is his glove and how that impacts his overall value as he ages. A career 154 weighted runs created plus is tied with Willie Mays and Frank Thomas, both of whom are Hall of Famers. The guy is a damn good hitter. I understand the worry that he might end up being a DH. but I also think he has a profile as a hitter that ages very well across the length of a 10-plus year contract that he might garner. Now, is this even going to happen? We don't know. Would I like Juan Soto? Spoiler, I love Juan Soto, one of my favorite players. I would love for him to be a New York Met, but is it going to happen? I'm not sure. Will they go off the show, Ohtani? I'm not sure, but it's going to be very interesting to see how David Stearns handles this. But to bring it all back to where we started, back to the prospects and seeing things like that, I do think there is going to be some movement. And once that movement starts, it's going to really give us an idea as to what they will attack, be it in free agency or the trade market.
I agree. I just want to throw something out there. Juan Soto will be 25 years old next May. Juan Soto is 24 years old. And if this is what Juan Soto is, I mean, this has been considered by a lot of people. This is what's considered by a lot of people for Juan Soto a down year, right? This current year that we're in.
Well, 154 weighted run, yes.
Juan Soto, yeah, and the weighted runs created plus is a great stat. But for people who aren't into the analytics and the sabermetrics and all that stuff, I'll just throw out some typical stats for you.
Go ahead.
This is a bad year for Juan
Soto.
Soto.
Card. Yeah, baseball card. Yeah.
276 batting average.
Great in this MLB.
10 on base percentage.
Okay.
524 slugging.
Okay.
935 OPS. A 159 OPS plus. He has 35 home runs, 108 RBI, and 11 stolen bases. That all equates to a 5.5 WAR.
Oh man!
And he has 155 hits. So, and this is by a lot of people's metrics, a bad year for Juan Soto. Yeah. And he's going to be 25 on May 20th of next year. He basically plays every baseball season because when his birthday falls, he plays every season like a full year of his life, right? So he played this whole season as a 24-year-old. I'd trade anybody on the team for him. I don't care who it is. Literally anybody. It doesn't even matter. There are people you don't want to entertain, right? Like there's look, would I love to not give up Francisco Alvarez? Yeah, because he's a 35 home run potential bat at the catcher spot. Sure, I wouldn't want to trade that. But, you're talking about Juan Soto, you're opening up. It's everybody, man. Any prospect is on the table for Juan Soto. He's that good.
Yeah, it's
sorry. Carson brings up a great 5.5 wins above replacement with terrible defense is crazy shit.
It is.
That's how good you have to be as an offensive player to have a 5.5 WAR.
Because we've talked about Kyle Schwarber ad nauseum when it comes to what he provides. But the guy hits 50 home runs a year potentially. Yeah, he's got a negative WAR. Like it shows you how insane a bad defender that Juan Soto is, and he's still putting up those types of numbers overall. It's insanity. Look, to answer Jeff Cohen's comment over here, it's like saying, isn't it nice to talk about obtaining Soto or Ohtani? Yes, it is. I do like that we can actually, speculate and talk about it in that sense. Is it going to happen? Who knows? That's what's going to make this offseason so much fun. Sure. But no, I mean, either one I would take with open arms and be ecstatic. Of course
you would. And honestly, I don't unlike in years past, because I have faith in what the Mets are building through the farm. And now that they have David Stearns here, I just said I'd trade anybody. And I don't want to speak out of both sides of my mouth. I would trade anybody on the team for Juan, any prospect I would trade for Juan Soto. But if they don't trade for Soto, if they're like, you know what, screw it, we'll try to get him next year, but we're not going to trade for him now. Okay. And if they don't sign Ohtani because he wants to stay here in LA and go to the Dodgers, okay. I still think the Mets are going to spread money around and go get guys and be really good because I like what they're building. And that's the whole point of baseball, is to try to have different avenues to attack building a very good team. And knowing that they have the money if they want to go sign Ohtani, knowing that they have the player capital if they want to go and acquire Juan Soto, and knowing that they have the player prospect capital in the minors to bring up and be an exciting baseball team, that's all good, Ibby. That's why I can't see this team, like some people thought, being non-competitive next year. There's too much talent and there's too much ability to acquire talent for them to be bad.
No, absolutely. And like the most interesting thing is like what you're saying. I am very curious in terms of the approach that this entire thing is going to go based off of whatever is available and how you're going to build. Are they going to attack offense? There's not a lot of offense to attack if you want to talk about the free agent market. So it's like this team needs pitching. Are they going to utilize those prospects that we have on, that are near and close and a plethora at certain positions? Are they going to use those guys to try and obtain pitchers instead, as opposed to signing guys like, a little bit longer in the tooth? Like, are you going to, if you don't get Yamamoto, say he goes elsewhere, you miss out on him. It's like, okay, are you going to pony up for a 30-year-old Blake Snell? Is that where you want to go? Coming off a second Cy Young, are you going to do that? Or are you going to say, look, I'm going to trade these assets? And to Carson's point before, talking about how the best season that a former Cy Young has had over in Milwaukee was with Omar Narvaez and Corbin Burns. Are you going to try to make a deal there? Because we know damn well that the Brewers are not going to pay Corbin Burns. They're not going to pay Brandon Woodruff. So I guarantee you, because of the years they have left, they will be shocked by Matt Arnold this offseason. I think there's going to be a lot of trades this offseason because I don't think that this free agent market is that good. I think teams are going to really try to cash in when it comes to prospects, and you're going to see a lot of big names potentially moved big time.
Yeah, and you're going to see the free agent crop is very, very, very top heavy. You're talking about, you've got Ohtani and you've got a couple other guys, and then after that, and some teams automatically are removed from that. Like the Milwaukee Brewers are not signing Shohei Ohtani. He wouldn't go to Milwaukee, and they don't have the money to do it. So like, you're eliminating stuff. So I agree with you. There's going to be a lot of trades made in the whole landscape of the MLB this offseason. Let's head into the break. We're at 41 minutes.
Let's do it.
We got some time to play with. So for everybody watching live, don't worry. The break is just a 10-second ad spot we need for the audio version of this show. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibanez, till Mets do us part. We'll be right back. Yo, just like that, we are back. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibanez, till Mets do us part. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitter or X, but the best way to be involved in the show is right here live on YouTube, where your questions, comments, concerns, everything you have to say comes in real time. We can see it. We can react to it. And on a show like this, where the agenda is a little different than what we normally do, we can get to as many of them as we possibly can. We also understand that not everybody can watch every second of every live stream, so you can watch anything that you missed on our YouTube channel after we're done with the broadcast, because this thing lives over there forever. The YouTube channel is called Till Mets Do Us Part. When you head on over there, make sure you subscribe and turn notifications on. While you're watching the video, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you like what you are watching. Feel free to comment after the show is over. You can do all of that stuff. And we also understand that sometimes you just don't have the time to sit here and look at our charming, beautiful faces, even though some of you are happy that my beard is back. Somebody once told me my beard grows like Wolverine. It's just, you think it's gone, and then it's just back. It regenerates. So I have to agree. My beard comes back real quick. If you can't do any of that, you can listen to us starting tomorrow morning, courtesy of the Premier Podcast Network, wherever it is you get your podcast. I believe Pete Alonso is now 4 for 4 on the day after another base hit. But anyway, Ibby, yes. I would say that you and I are all about transparency on this show. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. I think we are very honest and upfront, and when we're right, we'll let you know. And when we're wrong, we'll own up to it. I agree with that. Yes.
Yeah, and we're not always going to be right. We both think that we're both confident in what we know about baseball, and we're both confident in how we would attack. If we're, hey, put my GM cap on, and what would I do with the lineup in this situation? And not everybody's going to agree, and that's cool. And we're not always going to be right. And we are certainly, especially me, I'm going to be really brash when I know that I'm right. But I am also willing to. Yeah, I'm a little bit of a dick. I'm also willing to be honest when. Yeah. Sorry. This is a great one. 4 hits for the clubhouse cancer today from Carson for Pete Alonso. So I'm also willing to be incredibly transparent when I'm wrong. I have in my hand, these are a few index cards. There are 5 of them in total of predictions that I made on this very show Going back to the beginning of the season, before the season started, you and I made our bold predictions as we do every year on this show. Ibby has his on his phone. I'm a little bit more analog. I like to write stuff down. I have color-coded Sharpies. These are written in blue and orange because Mets. So I thought it would be fun. We've never done this before.
Yeah.
I thought it would be fun if we revisit. Now, I said these on that first show. I put a clip on them and I put them in a drawer.
Yep.
But I thought it would be fun if we took these back out and we went back and forth and talked about our bold predictions. And I do say that you can say whatever you want in the comments. So please, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to say whatever you want in the comments about me and Ibby. Ibby, do you want to go first? Or we'll go back and forth like we did the other day. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I'll go with one first.
Okay.
Okay.
These are our bold predictions for everybody tuning in right now. Bold predictions that Ibby and I made the week before the season started as we were leading in to do this show. Ibby, what do you got first?
Okay. Number one, I will say this. This one did not end up happening, but I think if he would have stayed, it might have happened. I had said my bold prediction, David Peterson breaks 30 saves for the first time since 2016. He was going to pitch to a 2.7 ERA with 32 saves. That was my bold prediction number one. I think he was going to be well on his way with this Met team. Then they got rid of him and they decided to stink in Miami. But, I would say that didn't work because he's no longer here. So that's one that didn't really happen.
Yeah, you said David Peterson. We all know.
I'm sorry, David Robertson. Yes.
But yes, I'm gonna have you got to count that as a loss, even though there's a little bit of a push aspect in there because he's not on the team. And I think if things go differently, he was doing great, and I think you would have been right. I agreed with you at the time. We got to count that as an L. I'm going to start with a big L for me.
Okay, what do you got?
I have that Max Scherzer.
Oh boy.
I have that Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, both of them, will be in the top 10 in ERA.
Whew.
That was a bad one, John.
Ooh, that's a rough one. That's an L.
I will rip this up. You guys don't ever have to trust me again when it comes to baseball. That one is fucking bad. That your pick, Ibby, neither one of those guys are here. But if they were both in the top 10 in ERA this year, it's a little bit of reverse from yours. They would both still be here. Yes. Your guy would still be here. Yes. And we'd have a fucking show next week.
Yes, we would.
So thank you, Max. And thank you, Justin Verlander, for letting me enjoy my vacation, you fucking bastards. And Carson just says, John.
Oof.
That's big oof. That's big oof. But you know what? I'm nothing if not transparent.
Another one I got. I'm gonna go with the bad. I'm gonna get the bad ones out now because I'll own every single one of them. This next one obviously was on my mind. David Peterson was something that I did mention at the start of the season of someone I thought was going to make a turnaround. I had said that David Peterson, based off of the stat projections, said he was going to range anywhere from 6 to 8 wins. I thought he was going to be able to hit 12 with a 3.4 ERA and 135 strikeouts. I came close on the strikeouts, but that's about it on that one. So that would then also be another big fat L.
That's a big L. Stevie Mac saying you should probably eat that index card. And I won't, simply because my birthday is in a couple weeks. I'm going to turn 37, so I'm getting a little older, and I have to be more conscious about what I have to be more conscious about what I put in my body, because I can't eat something like that. It feels poisonous. Okay, I'm going to bring up this one because it is not necessarily Carson saying Peterson hype. I got to go to bed. I like this one because this is an L. But like your first one, there are some circumstances, and I wasn't terribly far off. I said that Pete Alonso, this is a twofer. Pete Alonso will lead the league in home runs and finish top 5 in the MVP. So he is obviously not going to finish top 5 in the MVP. Part of that is due to the fact that he's hitting around 225 for the year, obviously. Part of that is the fact that the Mets aren't good. Part of that is the fact that he missed a chunk of time. And then also there are all of the outside circumstances like Olsen having an unbelievable year, Acuna having a big year, Betts having a big year. Alonso was not going to finish in the top 5 in MVP. However, I don't think he's going to catch Olsen, but he is close to leading the league in home runs. And I think if he doesn't get hurt, he would have more home runs than Olsen now. I think Pete Alonso, if he doesn't get hurt, we're talking about him pushing. I don't think he gets there, but we're talking about him pushing 60 because he's got 46 right now.
46.
And he missed a bunch of weeks and he was terrible for a bunch of weeks when he came back. So that's an L. I'm owning the L. I'm just saying, Carlos saying this here. He still might break 50. And we're talking about the bad stretch he had and the injury. So, I think there's a chance. I think he could have been knocking on the door 60 if he doesn't get hurt.
I agree with that. And I'll
But it's an L.
continue.
I'm owning the L.
It's an L. Now mine, look, we're doing this show before the week is up. So again, this one is a potential still. I'll keep the Pete Alonso vibes rolling. I had said this, and I was so confident when I said this one that I had already clipped it, and I was prepped for the end of the season from that show to post it if it happens. And it still might, and I still might use it. I had said that Pete Alonso was going to hit 50 home runs, putting him 4th all-time on the Mets board with 196. And then on top of that, I said an all-encompassing thing, which I said might have happened during the season or after, which, of course, has become a huge talking point when it comes to contract. I said at the time it was going to lead to an 8-year, $215 million extension. Now, it's possible still that might happen. He might not get the years. We know the rumors of him going back and forth about the years, but that was a big one that I felt very confident on, and it's still possible. So we'll see. That one's in the undecided right now. So it's possible, but we're not sure.
I also think, I think 8 years, 215 for Alonso is still possible. I think anything is possible. I know I've said my high water mark would be 8 for 200, but I also said if Steve Cohen needs to overpay a little bit to get that job done, if maybe, if Alonso's out here saying I want 9 years and Cohen's like, hey, you know what? Why don't I just give you 8 for 215 and we call it a day? Carson saying, who had Alonso being a clubhouse cancer? Because I did. I know who did. Sal Licata, because he lives in a fucking fantasy world. Anyway, speaking of fantasy worlds, let's go back to my takes, shall we? See, I can talk shit on people and then be self-deprecating. It's because I was a comedian for 11 years. So this next one, my next two, I'm saving my best one for last. I got to be honest, because I'm going to have to redeem myself. So I hit you guys with the real bad one, and then I hit you with the one that's like, okay, it's a little fluky. It's an L because Alonso's not doing it, but Alonso's had a good year, especially in the power department. This next one, Ibby, I don't know which one of the next two are worse.
Okay.
But I'm going to go with this one because this one is pretty bad. And I'm just going to show it to the camera first before I say it.
Ooh. I'm right behind you, man.
Brett Baty, top 3 finish in the Rookie of the Year balloting. I'm going to rip this up so that everybody can see that. I don't have anything to say other than Brett Baty's been really disappointing. Brett Baty hits the ball on the ground too much. Carson, I know will chime in about that, I'm sure. Brett Baty needs to learn how to pull the ball. Brett Baty has power. We saw him hit an absolute bomb like a week
against
ago.
The Phils. Oh, my God.
Brett Baty can do it. Will Brett Baty ever do it? I'm not sure. Brett Baty has now gotten to the point, it'd be for me, I was pretty bullish on him. I thought he was going to, I know he didn't make John cooked. Look, I was pretty bullish on him because I thought he deserved to make the team out of spring, and then obviously he doesn't. That's why I thought he was going to be like a man possessed. But he has now fallen for me to be the bottom 4 of the 4 prospects that the Mets had going into the year. It's still Alvarez 1. It was Mauricio for me, number 2. Vientos now with recent play and what he's shown is now number 3. And Baty has moved all the way down to 4. So I'll take the L on that one. Big time L.
Look, I still believe, I know Carson's not going to want to hear it. I still believe in Brett Baty as much as he hates him. I still believe in him. And I think that, I hope that some tweaks are made in the offseason to better the approach a little bit. Because he does still hit the ball hard. He just has to hit it he's got to attack the ball properly. And like we just said, we're not doing it as much when it comes to lack of pulling the ball, hitting the ball on the ground too much. But I also had a Brett Baty one. I also said he was going to be a finalist in the Rookie of the Year. I had prefaced things by saying how I thought that Corbin Carroll was going to be the winner of that Rookie of the Year. But I said that I thought that Baty could be a potential finalist. And that did not happen. I also said that I thought he was going to hit 20 home runs with 70 RBIs. Didn't happen either. So that in itself is a big L.
Carson saying, speaking of dog shit, Drew Smith is on the mound. I'm going to keep the trend going because Carson's been super active. Okay. When I take this next one out, I just want to say to everybody, of course, this is for everybody, and Ibby and I are going through our bold predictions that we made before the season started in the interest of transparency with all of our viewers and listeners. Carson's been really active, so I just want to address him personally. I hope after I say this next one that we can still be friends. I hope you'll still come on the show. I would still like to come on your show. Yes. I hope that you will take me seriously as somebody who likes baseball, especially after what just happened in the outfield on this play.
Oh, Christ. Oh, Christ.
I said that Jeff McNeil would repeat as batting champion. And I was fucking wrong. So I'm going to tear that one up. I can't say anything about it. I thought that he would simply because I like his hit tool, honestly. Yeah. Like I there's a lot of stuff that Jeff McNeil doesn't do well. And I agree with Carson. I do think that he kind of, he gets pool noodly. He slaps the ball around. But I thought last year he put that all together to the best of what that looks like, which is a 320 batting average.
Yeah.
And this year he did anything but. If Jeff McNeil's hitting 320, it really doesn't matter how he gets to 320. He could bunt. He could slap the ball the other way. A shortstop could vacate the spot and he could hit it through the hole. It doesn't really matter because 320 is still 320. This is not 320. If Jeff McNeil doesn't hit over, I would say Ibby at the very minimum 300, but I would even say 305, 310. If he's not living in that area, he is a very unproductive offensive player.
That he is. But to his credit, I'm pretty sure I believe he was hitting well over 300 for the month of the back end of August and into September because he was trying to, get back to the player that we saw last year. But yeah, that's a big L on that one.
That's an L.
And one more that I said the team was going to win 94 games. I took the under on that, but I still said 94. So that's clearly off as well. But in terms of player wise, I think the average is off, but the rest of this is pretty on point. I had said that Francisco Lindor was going to bat 280, hit 30 home runs, and steal 15 bags while also winning a Gold Glove. I went big on that one, and obviously the average isn't going to hit. Homers could hit, and he went beyond the 15, and I think he should win a Gold Glove, but we all know it's a popularity contest. So however you want to view that one, indecisive, in the middle, whatever, that was my last one in terms of player with Francisco Lindor.
To quote Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Is this your golden ticket?
I have a golden ticket. There is a few games left. Yeah, Carlos Ortiz saying it right here.
2 home runs for
2 home runs away from 30-30 for Lindor.
It's possible.
I am holding in my hand
right there
an index card that I am not going to rip up. I've shown them all in the interest of transparency. God damn it. I'm going to show this one. Francisco Lindor, 30-30 and a Gold Glove. We're still alive. Francisco Lindor, 30-30 and a Gold Glove. I have never rooted harder for an individual accomplishment of a player than I am rooting for 2 more home runs from Francisco Lindor on the season. The Gold Glove's a little bit of a crapshoot. He's done good enough to get one. But if this one comes true, I wrote this down on when did the season start? It'd be March 28th or some shit.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
So the week before that, I wrote this down. I said it on a show. Lindor.
Frame it.
Lindor, save me. Because if Lindor gets 30-30 and a Gold Glove, I will have to frame this next to the check that I have from one Steve Cohen. because that will have saved all of my predictions for the year.
So
Lindor, don't fail me now.
So basically, when it came to our predictions, not so much a highlight recap, more of a low light recap in terms of our things.
We did say they were bold.
We did say they were bold. Like, that we did.
You can't just be like Pete Alonso's going to hit 40 home runs. Like he's done that every time. That's not bold.
Right. You got to go out there and you got to do something a little bit different. So what? I say I hit on potentially maybe 2. I might hit on potentially. Robertson was a good call in terms of what he was doing. Same thing. Here's a couple, but it's like, like I said, go bold, go big or go home. We went bold and we struck out like Kyle Schwarber. That's what we did.
Go big or go to Australia. That's what I always say.
Exactly.
They have the same ring to it, but I will both go big and go to Australia. I do want to ask Carson, the Beatty take was better in my opinion, John. Beatty take was better than what? Than the Lindor take or the McNeil take? Because it came in kind of late when I was talking about Lindor.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's more of a reaction to what I was saying about McNeil. So I'm not sure. I want him to clarify that. Ibby, we're at the hour mark. Mets are playing. They're winning 9-2. People are on base for the Marlins. Drew Smith's in the game. He sucks. So listen, there's another game coming on. I have softball later, so like we can get out of here soon, but yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the appropriate way to kind of close out the show, to close out the season for us on this show is. So is there anything that we didn't get to today? Anything that you want to wrap up talking about, like as we head into the off season, even if it's something we've talked about before, but just now that we're closer to the off season, like where's your head at? What do you want to end on?
I mean, if there's one more thing I just wanted to get your opinion on, then we can wrap everything and figure out how we're going to wrap it. And that was, did you read / do you have any feelings on the Athletic article of the all-encompassing breakdown of 2023 with the Mets, the Tommy Pham comments? Do you have anything on that feelings-wise?
Look, I think guys are always entitled to their own opinions. And Tommy Pham was in the clubhouse and I'm not. So I'm not going to say that he's wrong, and I'm not going to throw Tommy Pham through the mud because, I didn't throw Verlander through the mud for saying that some of the Mets tech was subpar. I didn't even throw Scherzer through the mud. I threw Scherzer into the mud because I thought that what he said, well, Scherzer was more, and Rosenthal was more about things that seemed like they were said to you, like, as a professional in confidence. And what you did was you went and you aired the dirty laundry, not necessarily talking about like, oh yeah, I thought this department was subpar. So that said, look, Canna just had a great interview talking about how he thought the work ethic that Pete puts in. These are two guys that were here. I will say, I think it was absolute horseshit the way that the Pham stuff was spun by people on WFAN.
Oh,
because that was just an absolute clown show. When he goes out of his way to say Lindor and Pete are great, it's some of the other veterans that I'm concerned about. Yeah. And then they're like, oh, I told you there's no leadership on this team. Alonso sucks. These guys got to go. This guy's got to go. It's like, okay,
change the core.
You cherry picking fucking ass. So, I don't have a tremendous issue with it. I mean, look, much like what happened with the Padres, we said something's just a miss. Yeah, there was a lack of productivity from this team, certainly between the lines and on the field. But something I think was a miss in the clubhouse. Now, is that because now I think you could hate each other and still have a great season, right? But something was off. It was not as good as it was the year before. And maybe some of the guys who are older don't have a great work ethic. I think that I thought it was dumb then. I think it's dumb now. But, look, I don't think you can shame Alonso, Lindor, or Nimmo, period. I think those guys do everything you want out of a baseball player. Anybody else? I don't know, man. Marte seems like a good guy. Is his work ethic bad? Maybe. I don't know. People have problems with Jeff McNeil and his attitude. Is he a bad guy? Maybe. I don't know. I'm not there. So, I think Pham, I respect Pham for getting asked the question and answering it. So, I don't know where else my take belongs on that, because I'm not in a position to dispute it because I wasn't there.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fine. Like, yeah, the whole thing, I really thought that I have no problem with the things that he said with you, John, also in saying that I thought that something definitely was amiss. Something was off. And it's odd to say, but I thought this team played better after the deadline when people were out the door. Now, that's not me trying to attack anyone and say that those players were the problem. I just think it's a little peculiar that this team played better baseball and felt like more like a team when, certain guys were out the door. And you were in sell mode and you were starting to play better. So I question that a little bit. But yeah, I don't have an issue. And one thing I did have a problem with, and it's when people decided to attack, and again, I hate talking about the fan now, but when you decide to go out there and backtrack and say, oh, no, you can't tell me that Pham didn't say that, Lindor didn't say to him that thank you for, showing me what it means to work hard. You get paid this money. You should be working hard. Again, context here. People can work hard in any aspect of any job that they do. Okay. You can work hard. Then someone else comes along and you see how they work and you go, man, I never thought of it like that. Let me try doing that. And then you can thank someone for saying, hey, I thought I was working hard. I'm very proud of the things that I do. But what you did, I'm going to implement that too. And it's going to help me work even harder. Like, that's the way I interpreted it. Because the guy puts over Lindor after the fact, saying he does work hard. But when people say that, oh, why aren't you working hard? You get paid all this money. You're the leader. You're the face. You're blah, blah, blah. It's like, there is context here. And we're all human beings. Like, that if you attack something, like, case in point, ready? Here we go. I prepared myself for that Howie Rose interview. I thought I did a good job. I still made it a point to ask John, hey, these are my questions. What do you think? And he would tell me things, and I'm learning more. It's like, wow, that's really good. I'm going to try to work harder. I'm going to make this better. I'm going to change this question. I'm going to do that. Like, that's just me trying to look and, facilitate out to try and better myself. Like, you're allowed to do that. It's not, you're not supposed to have all the answers right away. Like, you can ask and you can learn, and then you can implement something and it makes you better. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And I got so pissed off when that became a talking point, but it doesn't shock me based off the person that said it.
Well, listen, and that's the other thing too. When you're talking about something in a sports context, but even just in any context, you're talking about a colloquialism like work hard. That has a lot of different meanings to a lot of people. I understand this is a semantics conversation, but that's why the context matters. And that's why what was said on WFAN with regards to that doesn't hold water to me, because, yeah, if you would have said to me, just to use the example that you just did with the Howie Rose situation, and you would have said, hey, man, thanks for that. You're showing me how to work hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. It doesn't mean that you weren't working hard. It doesn't mean that I've even, as the person who helped you or whatever, it doesn't mean that I showed you necessarily how to do something better. Maybe I just showed you something you didn't know about or gave you a different bit of insight. And people look at all of that as working hard. It's not like Lindor's sitting there and going, wow, man, thanks to Tommy Pham, I know how to do tea work.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, that's not what we're talking about. Or he's like, oh, I always used, it's like Lindor sitting there going like, I used to hit off of a tee when I was in high school. Then I thought, I'm a superstar. I don't need to do that. And he started hitting off a tee, and now it's boom. I'm going to do that again. That's hard work. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, like, I'm doing what I do, and I'm good at what I do, but I've never had a teammate like him. I didn't know Tommy Pham before this, and he taught me something I didn't know. And that's okay.
That's okay.
Actually, that's great. We should all be looking to get better. We should all be looking to learn from somebody. Like, that shit is important all the time. So, to me, I just find that, I don't know, it's incensing, honestly. Like, that you would cherry pick and then be proved wrong. And rather than just saying like, my bad, you double down on the cherry pick. That's horseshit.
Yeah, because again, it's baiting for clicks. That's all it is. It's I hate it. I understand why it's done, and trying to capitalize on the platform that you're on because you get rewarded for that, based off of the app. But I still fucking hate it, and I think it's garbage, especially when you're talking about people. But yeah, I'm hopefully done talking about them. But I'm sure something else is going to come up.
Carson with a good point here saying, I would be angry with Fam if he wasn't right. It's a dick move to call out a team like that, but that's the type of guy Fam is. He's straightforward. And then he follows it up by saying, my number one pet peeve with the Mets is that I don't like being lied to, and he was being honest and had every right to do so. He played his ass off for us.
He
and
did.
I think that's
Worked
also
hard.
fair. Look, sometimes guys get bad reps in sports, and it's kind of confounding why they do.
Yeah.
You know, you see things and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like everybody's like, oh, this guy's a bad guy. It's like, no, I think that you in the media don't like that he is not super cooperative. Therefore, you have labeled him a bad guy,
a jerk,
or somebody who's, off or different or strange. Like, everybody did it with Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch, such a bad dude because he doesn't like answering questions and he doesn't like this. Meanwhile, like, Marshawn Lynch is, every Thanksgiving going back and giving out turkeys and donating to charity and doing all this shit. And maybe something comes out with Marshawn Lynch where he is a bad guy. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm just using him as an example where it's like, people are like, oh, that guy's a bad guy. I'm like, why? What did he do? What did he do? People are so quick to defend guys who actually do bad shit.
Yeah.
But then, when somebody does something they don't like, they're like, oh, he's a bad guy, or this guy he's different. Tommy Pham struck me as a good teammate. Tommy Pham struck me as a guy who played his ass off, like Carson said. Tommy Pham strikes me as a guy who is going to be straight up and honest and answer the question. But because Tommy Pham slapped a guy because he didn't like the fact that he fucking screwed him out of money at fantasy football or whatever, all of a sudden it's like, oh man, Tommy Pham, he's reckless. He's a loose cannon. What?
Yeah.
It's like, listen, any one of you fucking people would have smacked the guy that stiffed you on the money for fantasy football. Or at
just
least
came up and disrespected you. Yeah.
Yeah, or at least you would have talked about doing it. You know what?
Yeah.
Tommy Pham's actually about it.
Yeah.
He didn't waste any time. He didn't mince any words. He walked over to that guy across the field and slapped him in the face. I respect a guy who's going to do that. And it's not about toxic masculinity of like show of force is the only way to express. I just respect the fact that he was like, this is who I am. I feel disrespected. I'm going to go show it. Everything about him is straightforward.
Yeah.
And so it's really frustrating.
Talk shit, get hit.
Right. It's really frustrating when you hear people who, again, and I know this is a little bit different when it comes to a guy like Aaron Rodgers, because the stuff with the, being immunized versus vaccinated and stuff like that was, a bit of a dick move. But like prior to that, or that stuff notwithstanding, there's a lot of like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is so different, man. He just goes into his darkness retreat and he only talks to two guys and he only does this and he only does that and he only does it. It's like, you don't like him because he's not talking to you.
Yeah.
He's not giving you the information. That's why you're mad. Just call it what it is. Be like, oh, I don't like this guy because he doesn't, I'm supposed to be Adam Schefter. And he's like, I'm not talking to Adam Schefter.
Yeah.
Like, it's that simple. You don't like that person, so you don't like that they're not playing ball. So now all of a sudden that person's different and they're weird and they're this.
It's the same reason why everyone hated Albert Bell. That's why he's not in the Hall of Fame, because everyone fucking hated the guy because he was a jerk. And look, he might have been. I don't know much about Albert Bell, but I'm just a numbers guy. I look at the numbers, I'm like, how this guy had an incredible 10-year run, and he was off the ballot pretty quickly because everyone's like, oh, he's a jerk. Like, I don't care. Like, he's not there to appease you. He's there to put up numbers. Like, and that's a whole other story. But similar. It's the same vein what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's my point. It's just that I always take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt when it has to do with, these guys like, oh, this person is difficult and this person is this and this person is that. And it's like, based on what metric? Based on what metric? Because not to turn this conversation into something else, but, almost every week there's a player in one of the big four sports that assaults a woman. There's a player in one of the big four sports that sexually assaults somebody. There's a player in one of the big four sports who drives 140 miles an hour while drunk. There's a player who does all these things. And then it's not like, oh, that guy's a bad guy. They never say, oh, that guy's a bad guy. They try to explain it away. Nobody talked about Adrian Peterson on mainstream sports talk shows about him being a bad guy when he beat his son. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm not saying nobody, but like that wasn't the rhetoric was like, oh my God, can you believe this? This guy's doing such a great job. Oh my God, this guy's doing he's such a great player. I can't believe this happened. What is this going to mean for the Vikings' chances? I don't know. What it means is you shouldn't beat your kid. You know, everybody wants it like, oh, this guy is so much this guy is so much that, this guy is so much this. And it's like, based on what metric? Based on what? So again, I don't want to get too in the weeds on this, but it is frustrating when people make these snap judgments about players that they have no right making because they don't know them. Also, it goes a long way if you just like a player, but you don't idolize a player. And I know I say that with a framed, signed Keith Hernandez jersey behind me, but I don't idolize Keith Hernandez as a person. I like Keith Hernandez as a baseball player.
Right.
And I met him and he signed my jersey and I think it's cool because I'm a Mets fan. Like, you don't put these people up on a pedestal and then you won't be as disappointed. Exactly. And so, you know, I just think when you expect certain things from people, you're putting your own expectations on who that person is. And to bring the conversation full circle, you know, if you with Tommy Pham, if you're sitting there and you're going like, oh, I wouldn't have done that. It's like, well, you're not Tommy Pham. So maybe you wouldn't have slapped Jock Peterson and maybe you wouldn't have been honest if you answered that question. To me, you know, should he have slapped Jock Peterson? Probably not, but he did, right? But he was also the guy who was then straight up about everything that went down.
And I'm sorry to cut you off, but like to that point, it's like, and he's also so straightforward and man enough to put his name on what he said about this team that he was just on, and then he got traded to. He didn't say anonymously. He put his name on it, which is why I appreciated the work that Will and Tim did on this. I appreciate the Disha article, that getting people to get their name and do actual journalism, which is so hard to do in today's world, apparently, because we just run with it because we have a microphone like some other jerks that we've mentioned so far. But, you know, the fact that he put his name on it is also me saying, you know, it's a straightforward guy. He says, look, if anyone's got a problem with what I said, they know who said it. They can come find me. They got my number. They can do whatever they want. But for the most part, I think we've heard good things about Tommy Pham when it came to him in the clubhouse. So I don't think it's going to happen.
Ibby, let's go out on this. This is a good comment, and one I didn't think of. This is from Carlos Ortiz. He says, do you think the Mets would be in the same place if they kept the team together? So obviously the formula wasn't working. Some guys needed to get back healthy and some things needed to change. But if the Mets had not sold, do you think the Mets would be where they are, better, worse? Where would the Mets be?
I would still think that they'd be a middling team. I do. I don't think anything would have changed. I really don't. I think guys need to get out of here. I think people needed a fresher start. It was just there was something off from the start. Since we started, like right away, people started questioning the team. Things weren't clicking. And a lot of questions were that I don't think if this team stayed together that it would have automatically figured things out and made a run. I think that the right move was made. I don't think that if they kept everyone, I'd still say that this team might have maybe another 3 or 4 wins, maybe, if that. Like I don't see much changing. I think they did the right thing. That's how I view it.
It's tough. I think because of how mediocre the NL is, it's very top heavy. I mean, the Braves are the best team in baseball. The Dodgers are very good, but they're not even vintage Dodgers by comparison. Everybody else is just shades of good. Some people very much shades of mediocre. The Marlins, for instance. I think the Mets would have been better. I think the Mets may have even made a run at a wild card spot, but I don't think the Mets would have gotten there. I think they would have dug a hole too deep for them to climb out of, and I think they would have fallen short. And then look, honestly, Max Scherzer probably still gets hurt because that injury seems like it was something that could have happened anyway. So I think he still gets hurt, and then where are you? So I think the Mets might be a bit better because they were so bad, Ibby. I think there's a regression to the mean, the back of the baseball card thing. Now, I don't think they flip a switch and turn it around. I just think some things start to click and they start to get a bit better. But I think it would have been fool's gold. And I think it would have been keeping this whole thing together, maybe even buying a couple pieces, and they still would have missed the playoffs. And obviously at that point, it's not worth it. When you look at what they were able to accomplish in terms of rebuilding their farm system by trading these guys, I think it's clear that it would not have been worth it for them to stand pat and fall short, and dare I say, even buy. And they would have had to buy, because you can't do nothing.
Right.
If you're doing nothing, you're an idiot. You can't do nothing at the deadline. I think you either have to buy or you have to sell. Now, I'm not saying you go push your chips to the center every year and you go all in. That's insane. But you have to do something. Like, if you're a mediocre team and you think you need a bullpen piece, like, go get a bullpen piece or two. If you're a mediocre team and, you know, you're 5 games under 500 and you're in a really good division and you have a bullpen piece that you could trade off or a bench bat, trade that guy. You know, now that's not saying you go and you trade your stud closer because you've had a down year and you're 5 games under. But that's also not to say that you go out and you mortgage your future by trading 3 top prospects for a first baseman who's got 6 weeks left on his contract. No, you don't go all in, but I think you have to do something every year. And so they probably, if they kept the team together, they would have bought, and I think they would have fallen short, and that would have looked real bad. So, I mean, that's my take on it. I don't know.
No, and I think that's fine. And if there's one thing that we can wrap up on when it comes to the season in general, I really think that because this team failed, because this team was the richest team and they went nowhere, and they're going to end up under 500, not making the playoffs, no wild card, nothing. I really think that you saw in spades the LOL Mets narrative of, you know, why media chooses to jump on this team when they do. We're seeing it because, you know, this market, baseball in general, thought that this team was going to give them something special. And when it doesn't give you what you want, you try to get something out of it. So that's what ended up happening. And when you look back on this season, those are the things that you're going to remember. Honestly, you're going to remember, sure, the team stunk. I don't think people are going to, you know, are they going to call it the worst team money can buy? Whatever. I don't really care about that much. I think you're going to remember it more so for the jokes and the toxic nature of Pete Alonso and the cancer and Max Scherzer saying what he said to Rosenthal and selling the way they did and pivoting. Like, that's going to end up being the focus of what this season was. Is that proper? I would probably say yes, but at the same time, I think it's also another learning curve for Steve Cohen in understanding how important it really was for him to establish some consistency within the front office so he can get the right people involved to build this team moving forward. He made the right call to pivot. He made the right call to get younger and pay up for it. Made the right call to land his big fish, who we all assume, and I love when you ask that question to Will, do you think it was always David Stearns? I thought it was. I think what Will was saying, it lined up as well. This was always the guy. You get him, you bring him home, and you let him get to work. And that, if that's what it takes for this team, and it's like sacrificing the most money for going through the season we just went through, and everyone's going to say, oh, he's not a savior. Stop thinking he's this big hero. What did he ever win in Milwaukee? It's a step in the right direction. This team has hope. This team has excitement. And if there's one thing I will say, to bring it back to a conversation we just had, because I have Michael Mayer on alerts on X, Jeff Passan just was on a podcast, and he had said this: the Mets are the Mets are a scary possibility for Juan Soto, and I think the Mets probably are in a better position to offer prospects to go out and get him, because I think Mets ownership has shown the aptitude and desire to sign guys like Soto long term. So that brings it back to what we were talking about before and where this team might attack, and why I think it's a conversation that will probably be had, because I will compare it to when David Stearns was in Milwaukee trying to make a splash for his team and better his team. He went out and got Christian Yelich. He utilized top prospects to do it. And the same thing can happen here. A little bit different because it's a less control in terms of Soto, but still one that I think bears watching.
And more of an ability to sign the player. So I think the control matters a little less.
Yes.
Because obviously the Mets have more of an ability to just extend Juan Soto. I know the Brewers did give Yelich the extension, but the Mets are in a better position to not say that it's a lock, but, I think put themselves in a spot where they can do that more so than Milwaukee has to worry about that. The last thing I will say, Ibby, sometimes we talk about how it's good for a player to struggle and struggle early so that you know what struggling is like, so you know what success feels like. You really know what defeat feels like. I think this season was that kind of a season for Steve Cohen. Steve Cohen trusted people to spend money, gave them a lot of money to spend. They spent it, and it didn't work. And I'm not going to blame Epler for all of it because some of it is a move I would have made if I was in charge. And I certainly don't have the resume he does. I would have signed Justin Verlander immediately when DeGrom left. So I can't fault him for some of the moves. But Cohen looked at this and he's like, I spent all this money and I lost. And I lost big. And it was embarrassing. And I don't like to lose and I don't like to be embarrassed. But that's what happened. And so I think this is going to be that kind of a year, the learning curve for Steve Cohen. He goes out now and he gets one of the most competent guys you can get. I like Epler working under him. And I think that, they are poised to do some big things in the offseason. And I think we're going to be excited going into the year next year. I really do. I think Mets fans have a lot to look forward to, not just for next year, but moving forward. And now we've talked for almost an hour and a half, so I think we should stop.
But either way, guys, again, this is going to be our final episode for Chapter 3, the third season of Till Mets Do Us Part. Obviously, thank you to each and every one of you for everything that we've done to this point. There's a lot on the horizon. I'm sure a lot on the horizon. We're very excited about the things that we have in front of us, and we hope that all of you stay with us. Again, we're not going anywhere, but we are excited about the things that are on deck for this off season and moving forward. And I'm just super proud of the show and how we continue to grow and build, and very thankful since we decided to go live and interact with more and more people, and it's really helped make the show that much better. And I know John feels the same way, but I'll throw it to him so he can close things out.
I do, Ibby. This show is great. Working with you is fantastic. Hearing from everybody is absolutely fantastic. Carlos Ortiz asking, are you guys on during the offseason?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes,
we
sir.
will be on during the offseason. Last year, we made a lot of great headway having some amazing guests on. That is the plan again. We'll be talking about the Mets through the offseason. We're just taking a break now because
think like October off. Think of it basically as October off, essentially.
And that's what I was going to say. There's a chance that we're back on at some point during the playoffs at the end of October. If something big happens with the Mets, if there's a David Stearns press conference while I'm gone, we'll probably come back and talk about it. If not, you're probably looking at the month of October off, and we'll be back after the World Series in full force. We are going to be doing this show all off season long, hot stove, right up until spring training, all that stuff. That's some of the best things to talk about is the hot stove and is the offseason and free agencies and trades and rumors. And we're going to have guests on. We've already talked to a few guests that we have had on in the past, people like Turk Wendell and Glendon Rush and these guys who have expressed interest in coming back on, talking about some fun stuff. We're looking to have some new guests. We're both going to be at the QBC, which is December 2nd. Keith said it at the top of the show that tickets are on sale. All of the guests have been announced. Starting next week. All of the guests have been announced. We got Cliff Floyd. We have Billy Wagner and Terry Collins. That's a great group. Sometimes even some other people might pop up as a surprise, do a signing or something like that. So you never know what's going to happen. There's also going to be great moderators and stuff. People from WFAN, people from New York Post, people from all kinds of
presented by SNY.
Yep. Presented by SNY. Exactly. All over the landscape of Mets fandom. So we'll definitely be there. I'm actually going to be in New York to do that on December 2nd. So that's going to be awesome. So we will be with you guys right now. I would say, imagine that we're going to be back, like Ibby said, after the World Series, I think is when we'll be back. So we really appreciate all you guys. We could not do it without you. Since we've gone live, everybody in the comments, whether you're here every week commenting 1 million times or you're here once a month and you comment once ever, you're an integral part of what we do. We could not do it without
Yes.
you. So that said, we are signing off just for now. We will be back soon. John Sapanaro, Matt Ibby Ibanez, till Mets do us part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter and X, and tomorrow, courtesy of the Premier Podcast Network, wherever it is you get your shows. We will see you next time. Peace.